Wow. How often do we actually talk about big-ish signings during the January transfer window, even if it is just a loan? And Aston Villa's capture of Philippe Coutinho has sent the football world a buzzing, and it sends me buzzing too with all the ramifications and implications of this move. Because as I said on the last show, Aston Villa needs to stop talking about ambition and they need to start showing ambition. And this move clearly does show some intent on their part. So to celebrate, I'm pouring the Brazilian national cocktail. It's called a caipirinha. And all you need to make this is fresh squeezed lime juice, a little bit of sugar, and some ice poured with their national spirit, which is a sugarcane alcohol called cachaça. I'm telling you what. This drink is lovely, very potent, consistently good, and quite refreshing. Let's hope we're saying those very same things later this year about one Philippe Coutinho. This is one of those signings that felt like it went from 0 to 60 within a split second, and where I'd love to be the proverbial fly on the wall in the halls of Bodymoor Heath is to know how this all started. Was it Steven Gerrard saying, do you know who would be perfect in this system and who's not really playing a lot at Barcelona? And the reason I say that is because when you look at Aston Villa, the squad, the first priority probably is not an attack-minded, left-sided or number 10 type player. It's probably a number 6. And the reason I say that is we've lost Marvelous Nakamba, which really hurt given the form he was in. But the way Steven Gerrard wants to play, it's with attacking fullbacks that support and overload the attack, which sometimes leaves the two center backs exposed. And that's where the 6 comes in, and the 6 can also play that really important outball. We've also heard an awful lot about the search for a left back. However, there is still a gaping, massive creative void on the left-hand attacking side of the park that was created by a summer departure. And although many players have auditioned for that role, including Jacob Ramsey, Ashley Young, Emi Buendia's even played there, along with Leon Bailey, sometimes El Ghazi. I mean, the list goes on. Nothing has really worked. And maybe in our minds we thought, well, Grealish is gone, nobody's going to replace him, but we haven't really thought about what's out there. And this dynamic changes everything. If you're asking me who I think is best suited there, I think John McGinn would be perfect as one of those two guys playing on the left-hand side and playing farther up the field, which he sometimes does for Scotland to great effect. But that's why I am an armchair manager and not the actual manager. And Steven Gerrard knows what he wants, hopefully. And he's played with Philippe Coutinho. And so perhaps he's put the 2 and 2 together and said, this solves a lot of problems all at once for us. Here we go with the Holy Trinity, the 3 big reasons why Philippe Coutinho is a shrewd signing for Aston Villa. Starting with an honorable mention is that Villa now has within its ranks a recent Champions League winner. And a manager once told me, he said, even if you have a lot of experienced pros in your squad, everybody still needs somebody to look up to, somebody who has achieved success at the highest possible levels. And for Coutinho, the only thing really missing is a World Cup, and he'd like to be part of that this coming winter in Qatar. After that, who is that guy in the Villa locker room? Is it Gerrard himself? Okay, so when he steps away, who is it? Ashley Young? Probably, but he's not been really involved in the first team that much recently. And I think Emi Martinez is building his career to that spot with the recent Copa America win and maybe, who knows, in the World Cup coming up. But still, now they have somebody in that locker room that whether you're young or experienced, you can look at, try to emulate, and certainly respect. I think another valid honorable mention is the fact that this really does show Villa's intent, does it not? And although that does make us feel warm and cozy and secure as supporters, there are implications in the procurement of future recruits, either during this window or the next one, because if you could tell, say, a number 6, which we know is a critical component in Gerrard's system, I've gone on and on about it, especially since Nakamba's injury, but if you could tell that person, hey, your out ball may be to Buendia on the right and Coutinho on the left, well, that's kind of an enticing prospect, is it not? Not to mention the fact this does kind of reinforce the Gerrard effect that we were all hoping for, because there were other clubs in on Coutinho, but he chose this one. And I do have to ask the question, because it has been posed elsewhere, would Dean Smith have identified Coutinho as a legitimate possibility to bring in at this stage? And would he have had that pull? And as much as I absolutely adored the man, the answer is probably no. Another honorable mention could be that, does this move indirectly benefit Matt Targett? Because as we all know, Targett has struggled at both ends of the park, and on the attacking side, he really hasn't had a lot of continuity on his side of the field this year, and that certainly has to make a difference, because he had so much continuity and chemistry with Jack Grealish in the past. And I do wonder, if there is more attacking impetus, if you have more dynamic up front, does that take some of the burden away from the defensive side of the ball? And let's be honest, Aston Villa does still have Ashley Young, who can cover at left back if need be. And I think the bigger priority is a number 6. So will they now focus their attention on that number 6 and maybe park the left back talk until the off season or the summer? And that could benefit Matt Targett in both ways. Number 3, this signing will lift Luiz. Maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but you know that Dougie will be desperate to be part of that Brazilian squad in Qatar next winter. And to have a fellow countryman who's also trying to get there, a revered footballer playing on that side of the field, I don't see how that could hurt, especially if Douglas plays in the position that's best suited to him, which we've seen in glimpses this year is the number 8 on the left-hand side of the field. And imagine having he, Coutinho, and then an overlapping and overloading left-sided fullback. There are possibilities there. I think there's still more from Douglas to give and to see. In that first season back in the Premier League, he showed that he could score goals, and we haven't seen a whole lot of that since. But if the right players are around him, I don't see why that couldn't happen. Number 2, Watkins will benefit. Surely he must. I mean, he had instant chemistry with Jack Grealish last year because of that dynamic. But now, Watkins, who is perfectly suited for this Gerrard system as the number 9, to have dynamic and creative players on either side, maybe will give him more license to score goals like the one he did against Brighton, where both of his wingers, or his 2 10s in that front 3, made great runs and pulled the defenders apart, allowing him to go on. But maybe he also plays them in more, because Coutinho will take up clever positions and make space. And when you then add the dynamic of more fullback support or dynamic 8s in Luiz and McGinn, well, that excites me. And I simply cannot see how Ollie Watkins will not be a benefactor in all that. When you look at it from this standpoint, it is kind of exciting to think that Ollie Watkins could be playing with Coutinho and Buendia behind him, and then Luiz and McGinn as the dynamic 8s, or maybe Luiz has to go to 6 and Ramsey continues playing in that position. But we haven't even started talking about the relationship with the fullbacks here. This, from an attacking standpoint, gets me excited. And the number 1 big reason why Coutinho is a shrewd signing is, I think it sets Emi Buendia free. And I had a lot of questions in our last show, the loss to Brentford, why I was being so hard on Emi Buendia when it was probably his best performance in a Villa shirt, and why he was probably one of the best players on the field. And the answer is simple. Villa lost. Yes, he had a great moment in setting up the 1-0 goal, but to be a great player, you got to do more. You got to help extend that lead when the opportunity arises, or help retake the lead in the second half when those opportunities provided themselves, and when in the critical moments he played the wrong ball or he just wasn't accurate enough. I don't like guys who go after the same people over and over again where it feels like there's an agenda. I want players to succeed. We should all want players to succeed. But to be great, you've got to help your team win. I think Emi Buendia will be a great player. He only has 1.5 Premier League seasons under his belt. He's only 25. He's still evolving and adapting. But I believe Buendia was brought in initially to play with Jack Grealish, not instead of him. And imagine the pressure that would have taken off him coming into this squad to have that kind of player to play with. That would have been amazing for him. And I certainly think that's a factor because right now, until Coutinho came in, he was the only creative, attack-minded type player that plays narrow, which is perfect for Steven Gerrard's system. Now he has someone else to take some of the focus away. But the reason why Buendia struggles in possession at times is because the opponents know you crowd him out, you deny him space, he becomes ineffective, or he tries to do too much by himself. Well, now you have balance, which every team is looking for. They can't just focus on him. They have to also focus on Coutinho. So you have these two creative, attacking 10 types playing in behind Ollie Watkins. Hopefully they become a good pressing unit together, working off Watkins' cue. And you have yourself something that is very, very interesting. And there's the transitional moments as well. I think Coutinho is going to help when Villa suddenly find themselves on the counter. And whereas I've complained that it looks like they're not getting it right on the training ground or something is just off, here's where footballing IQ comes in. And Coutinho has that because he can get past people on his own. And that's going to open up a world of possibilities for the guy on the weaker side of the ball, which is Buendia. Not to mention the fact you now have two Brazilians in Luis and Coutinho, and then Emi Martinez and Emi Buendia, Argentinian. Well, the banter leading up to the World Cup is going to be extraordinary in the squad. Now, the downside issues that keep coming up with regards to this signing all have to do with cost and the value proposition, which I think is a little bit weird because it's not our money, but the wages will be shared and prorated. And if we get the Coutinho of Bayern or Liverpool, then that's a no-brainer in my books. And it's not like he's been overplayed at Barca and he's coming here burned out either. Plus, if there is an option to buy, he'll only be 30 in June. I think this move is being orchestrated on his part to clearly get into that Brazilian side for Qatar, which might be his last crack at a World Cup because, 34 and 2026 might be a bit of a push. Now, from the Villa side, the people who might miss out here could be Jacob Ramsey, probably Danny Ings, but let's be honest, Danny Ings does not look like he fits with Watkins. And that's the harsh reality of football. Bailey is a ways away from fitness. Traore and Trezeguet are at AFCON, and I don't think they're factors still as starters. This is the harsh reality of football. You need to upgrade, you need to improve all the time, you need to evolve. And I think with this move, they are getting a player who will be rejuvenated and who will help Aston Villa. I'm very intrigued by Steven Gerrard's influence in the recruitment side of Aston Villa Football Club because he was very clear and concise about how he's wanted his team to play. And we've seen evidence of that during his tenure. But now we're manifesting into him looking at players that he thinks would be perfect for his system and introducing them into the squad. And that's exciting. And we're going to see how it works out. And I think there's going to be more signings, but this is probably the one that had to get done first, given the competition for Coutinho's signature. And hopefully it helps attract the next player if there is to be one. And if there is to be one, we will talk about it. Until then, stay well. Obrigado for watching. And of course, up the mighty Villa.